Hello everyone and welcome to this pre-release recap. So this was my deck that I played at pre-release. I know some of the cards are fuzzy, but don't worry, we'll go over all of those. So I ended up playing black and green. It was not my first deck that I played at pre-release. In fact, in my first round, I played this deck. So here we are. This was what I originally decided to play for pre-release, and the reason why I picked black and red was because that's the colors I had the most removal in. And then I decided to splash green for Hungering Hydra because it's only the one green and it's super good. This card won me my first round essentially, which was great. So yeah, so I had shock. I still had explosive apparatus in there. I had a electrify, right? So this card saved me in game one, I believe, because he played a volcanic dragon early because he had the creature that sacrifices to add mana and was swinging at me for 4 in the air, and I would have been dead on the spot had it not been for electrify. So, and then he didn't really have much gas after that, and I was able to win. I think of note, I did have Volcanic Dragon and Spark Tongue Dragon in my pool. You've seen Volcanic Dragon. I'll show this one here. And the reason why I didn't play them is because I wanted to be aggressive, and I thought the best card for the top of my curve was Bone Dragon. And so I chose to play Bone Dragon and not the other two, because if I play those other two, I might end up, with them as dead cards in my hand when I'm trying to be an aggressive deck. And the drafts and other things I've played recently have kind of pulled me towards being aggressive, and I always try to play these big creatures in aggressive decks, and it never works because I run out of gas. I don't see the big creatures, or I should be playing these smaller creatures, but I have the big creatures in my hand. So I decided let's just go aggressive. So I had Vioshino Pyromancer. I actually had 2 of those. Go. So like great aggressive card. 2 damage right to the face when they enter. Child of Night just gives a little bit of life link. I had the Marauder's Axe in here. I kept it in even after I switched colors, but this was just, again, getting more damage in. I had Dark Dweller Oracle. So I had this as a sack outlet. He was fun to play. I wish I could have played him a little bit more, but that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes. So I had Dark Dweller Oracle as a sack outlet for Active Treason. I was really hoping to do this during the pre-release, steal someone's creature and then sack it to something like Dark Dweller Oracle or Blood Divination. That was another sack outlet. Of course, that means I would need 7 mana, so I wasn't really thinking that one through. And as a fringe case, if I managed to steal a goblin, I could sacrifice it to the Trash Master. This card is really cool. I like him a lot. I did have a fair number of goblins, which is another reason why I wanted to play red and black, because I got Trash Master. I got Bogart Brute, which is the 3/2 with Menace. This is a good solid creature to play. I got Gutter Snipe, which I got a couple of triggers off of him, and getting a couple of these triggers really does change the game. And so I had those for goblins. I had the Dark Dweller Oracle as a goblin. And so I was, I had a fair number of goblins, Trash Master, and I had all of this removal. So I decided to go with black and red. Also had Ball Brash Ogre. That was the other one. This one has a sack outlet as well. I was really hoping that this deck would work. I had a little bit of recursion, which is good, like with Gravedigger and Macabre Waltz. But I ultimately decided to switch in round 2 because I was facing this guy who had life gain and flyers. So it was like the perfect counter to this deck. And this is something that I've heard before of look for the second deck in your pre-release. This was my first deck, and the deck I played through the rest of the rounds was my second deck. But that second deck is what won me the round 2. So always make sure you look for that, because playing against life linking, life linking flyers deck was just murder for this deck. This deck would not have been able to handle that because there's no way to get all the damage I needed done. After game 1 of round 2, I switched back and I managed to win that round. So the first game I lost using my deck with red in it. And the second game I ended up winning by using Declare Dominance. I managed to put Declare Dominance on my Vine Mare and then attack, and he had to block with all of his kind of smaller creatures, and I essentially wiped the board. And he was never able to come back from that. He relied a lot on synergies between his creatures with gaining life and having life gain payoffs, and by wiping his board on turn 5, I was able to come out ahead in that game. So Declared Dominance, really good. It would have been better if my creature survived, but my creature didn't, but it did wipe his board. And Vinemare was my best choice because it had hexproof, so he couldn't use a removal spell on Vinemare after I played Declared Dominance. A card that worked really pretty well for me too was this Bristling Boar. Since it can't be blocked by more than one creature, this oftentimes resulted in very profitable attacks and was almost kind of like a form of evasion. So that was really nice. Two-Headed Zombie was alright, not very high toughness, which was kind of its biggest downfall. I pulled 2 of these, but only put 1 in, and I think that was the right choice. Of course, Gravedigger. This was great. Having Gravedigger along with the 2-mana, here it is, Macabre Waltz, right? This meant that if they started killing my creatures, I was not too worried about it because I had a couple different ways to bring them back. Also, I was fortunate enough to pull the Bone Dragon, which has its own form of recursion. Rocks Oracle was also really great. I watched a video by MTG Degree. I played all the copies that I got and did not regret it. Had, big attack stats and drew a card on entering the battlefield. Was a good target for reanimation. So that guy was great. Game 3, I felt a little bit bad because he only played 2 lands and I just ran him over with all my creatures, early creatures, and he just had nothing he could do about it. I did end up casting this a couple of times, and it is awesome when you cast this. I went from behind to ahead, and being pretty painful for them if it dies, because then I get some ahead in cards. And it is foil, which is sweet. Also happy that my Hungering Hydra was foil as well. And this card does some work. If you get this card and get it out on the battlefield, it is really good. I won my game 2 of round 3 with this card, but my opponent also had one, and I almost made a big mistake with attacking, where I didn't leave back a blocker. So I think I attacked with Hungering Hydra and with the Worm, and he had a Colossal Dreadmaw and a Hungering Hydra on the battlefield. So he blocked the Worm with his Hungering Hydra, and which was large enough to kill it. And then he blocked my Hungering Hydra with his Colossal Dreadmaw, which was enough for mine to kill it and stay alive. But then I didn't have any blockers. Luckily, I had Doomed Dissenter in hand. So I played Doomed Dissenter. He has one creature on the battlefield. And this is why Doomed Dissenter is so good. He managed to draw Spark Tongue Dragon and pay for the extra mana to deal 3 damage. But even if he did 3 damage to this, it would create a token left behind, which then was able to block his Hydra. And he said, no, there's no way. There's no way I can come back from that because his life total was so low that he would have been done. So yeah, Doom Dissenter is great. Also in that round 3, he had this red enchantment, which absolutely dominated me in game 1. And I boarded in Naturalize, of course, to take care of that. And in game 2, the turn that he played that enchantment, I was able to naturalize it. I had the mana open, instant speed. It was awesome. So I had Plummet in from the previous round where the guy was playing the white-black kind of flyers. Took that out. I had, I think, another creature in. A couple of cards I was not sure about putting in or not was Highland Game. Maybe instead of like the Greenwood Sentinel, right? 2/2 Vigilance. Thought maybe gaining a little bit of life would help. But against this last guy's deck, he had so many high power creatures for that enchantment that it didn't really matter with the life. And then I also had Gift of Paradise because I'm thinking, man, if I have to get up to the big worm, that I might need some ramp. But I was able to last long enough to cast that. And part of what got me there, what did some really good work, was Dryad Greenseeker. So this says, tap, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. In game 2 of round 3, this drew me so many cards. The trick to this card is on your upkeep, you can tap it and look at the top card. So you can do it before you draw the turn after you play the Greenseeker. I hit 5 or 6 times in a row and was drawing 2 cards a turn for those 5 or 6 turns. And that really put me ahead, and I was able to win that game. That was also the game where I naturalized his enchantment, so that was good. So we were then 1-1, and we were on to game 3, and I'm thinking, man, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna 3-0 another pre-release. Here we go. Let's do it. And he mulligans to 5, and it's like, oh my gosh, just don't mess up. Well, the hand that I kept had like, I think it was like Vinemare and Bristling Boar, an Arcane Encyclopedia, and lands, I think. I think that was it. And I said, well, I got a couple creatures. I got something to draw if I need to. These games have been kind of going long because he wants to play those big creatures, so let's just try it. He mulled to 5, and he played this green enchantment on curve. He was able to draw out of his mulligan. My deck was too slow for the early creatures and things he was playing, and he beat me in that final round just through sheer force. I mean, I had to make blocks. I was hoping to get some recursion effects, didn't ever get recursion, so unfortunately lost that last round. But he was really nice. Shout out to, his name was also Zach in Rochester. He gave me his playmat because he won a playmat for winning for going 3-0, and said he didn't need 2. So I got this sweet new playmat which says Rochester on it, which was fun. I was out in Rochester visiting some friends who just had a baby, and so having kind of a memento from that weekend was really great. By the way, the father of the child is the guy I went and played pre-release with. We played Magic together a bunch back when we knew each other in Colorado. So that was kind of our fun activity. We got to go play pre-release in Rochester. Why not, right? So that's pretty much all I wanted to say about the deck. Kind of showed you all the sweet cards. Marauder's Axe was useful. I could put this on one of my Sky March Bloodletters and swing in for a lot of damage, or I could use it to block their big flyers. So it was a nice little boost. It was the only equipment that I had. This card probably could have done without. It was just a nice kind of filler in case the game went long, so I kept it in there. Explosive Apparatus did some work for me. It's just 4 mana to deal 2 damage is really expensive. I mean, if I played this and used it in the same turn, a lot of times that was one of the only things I got to do was just 2 damage to a target. But it also helped clear some of the smaller blockers out of the way for a big attack. I had to kind of think about the fact that it was there. If you play this on turn 1, if that's your turn 1 play, it's not as bad. But finding 3 mana later in the game when you want to play something else like, Rocks Oracle, or you have 5 mana and you can play Rocks Oracle or you can use Explosive Apparatus. You think, well, I'm going to play the Rocks Oracle, right? If I can activate Explosive Apparatus or play Skymarsh Bloodletter, I'm going to play the Vampire. So it was okay. I think it's not recommended, but it helps have just a little bit more removal in my pool, which was good. I ended up playing 17 lands. In my other deck, I played 16, but with these kind of bigger green creatures, thought 17 was good. I had 1 Foul Orchard, I had 9 forests, and 7 swamps. And that worked really well for me. Never had a problem drawing lands. 17's my preferred. I played 16 lands with the aggressive deck because I had kind of lower cost creatures, and I've played with 16 mana before, and usually it's fine, but then there are the games where you just don't draw a land, and I found, for whatever reason, 17 lands for draft or pre-release, I almost never get mana screwed and very occasionally get mana flooded. So that seems to be kind of the magic number that I've found. So yeah, overall I had a great time playing and did pretty well. Guess maybe Strangling Spores was one of the only things I didn't mention. This card is great. Play it. Play it without hesitation. Removal is king, as they say. And I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.